Hi, welcome everyone. Thanks for hopping on with me. This is Michelle Ricci coming to you, and I am so excited to introduce you to my friend and a colleague. This is Cindy Schmidt, and I'm going to be interviewing her today. Cindy is a women's health physical therapist. She's been doing that for 23 years, and she's woven in some other holistic modalities like yoga and Reiki. She's also a certified mindfulness teacher and most recently in her career, a Jungian Life Coach. So welcome and thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. This is going to be fun.
Yeah, I'm excited. Yeah, such neat stuff. So Jungian Life Coach, tell us a little bit about what that means.
So it is a beautiful blend of the psychology of Carl Jung blended with Eastern philosophy and neuroscience. So three of my big passions really blended together. And it's a different model. It brings that Jungian psychology into a coaching model so that you're really looking at how do I reach my potential? How do I create my potential? How do I actively create a life I really love living? And a big part of it is working with some of the techniques from Carl Jung's psychology, such as shadow work, active imagination, dream work, but also weaving in that Eastern philosophy. So, really looking at how the mind works and how we work with our own mind. And that's really the key to how we create that life we love.
Beautiful. Sounds amazing. I think we can all use some of that in our life.
Yeah,
Huh?
that's how I feel.
So, yeah. How did tell us, how did you get there? How did you find this path? And tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I've always been interested in holistic practices in the body. I've been a physical therapist for many, many years, and I love the body and science. But working in that traditional model felt like there was something missing to me. I had over the years my own health journeys, being diagnosed with an autoimmune disease, Crohn's disease. And that really was an impetus for me to look at different ways of healing. So at that point in my life, I really started seeking. Like I did my yoga teacher certification. I became a Reiki master. I started studying Buddhism and mindfulness. And I really just was seeking. And pieces that really worked for me were the mindfulness. That was a big part of my healing. Changing my nutrition was a huge part of my healing. And over the years, like I really do feel like I healed myself from that. But it is a lifelong process. And then that was 20 years ago, I was diagnosed with that. And then 2 years ago, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And it's kind of like hits you. It's like, oh, I thought I had this figured out, but there's definitely layers, and that healing process and that learning is lifelong. So it kind of was that piece that really got me to look a little deeper and to really turn inward and put all these pieces together and realize that I'm ever evolving. Like it's going to be a path that I'm on for the rest of my life.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm not sure what you know of my story, but the same kind of thing. And I think a lot of practitioners that I know come through this kind of wounded healer pathway. We're seeking for answers. We have this inner knowing that this couldn't possibly be the rest of our lives or the answer, especially when we're chronically ill or just in a situation that's wildly uncomfortable, that we have some kind of knowing inside that there's another way, and that it's about seeking that truth. So really beautiful. And you the breast cancer piece you were talking about, um, do you want to talk a little bit about just that and like kind of the path that you went on and I'm sure that I can't even imagine what that would be like, and all the choices you would have to make along the way, and just what Crohn's is one thing, a double mastectomy is another. Do you want to touch on that a little bit?
Sure. So I feel like when I was told I had breast cancer, I was able to really pull on these tools that I had gathered in my past. So it was a different reaction from 20 years ago, of feeling like I was just spun out and not knowing what to do. And then now I was able to kind of come at it like, I mean, not that there wasn't a lot of emotion and not that I didn't want things to be different, but it was more of a, okay, well, this is what's happening, instead of why me, it's why not me. We all get our trials in life. And I was able to come at it from a much more mindful place. And I think I was able to make decisions that I wouldn't have made 20 years ago. It was, for me, I did choose to have a double mastectomy for multiple reasons, just years of having issues, and I won't go down that path too much. But when you have a double mastectomy, you're kind of just funneled into, okay, the next step is reconstruction. And you're not really given any other options. And luckily, I did kind of do my own research, and I was like, well, there is another option. I could just not do reconstruction. I could just stay flat. And that's, for me, felt right. There was less surgeries, less complications. If you have implants, less possibilities of complications with that. And I felt like that wasn't even given to me as a choice. And I felt like being able to empower myself to speak up for myself and say, this isn't the path I want, this is the path I want, and feel good in my body, even though our society has its own idea of what a woman should look like, and, that whole arena. It was just, for me, the right choice, and I felt empowered to make it. And that's not saying, like, for other women, doing reconstruction is a bad choice, because it's a completely personal choice. There's no right or wrong there. It's just, I want women to be empowered to feel like they could look at all the options and choose for themselves.
Yeah, it's so important. And I can't imagine. And, so just deep bow to you for that, going through that, and advocating for women in their power of choice. It's so important. And that's really what you're, doing with your life now, right? Like, that's, the most important thing, what's become to you. And so, obviously, you had a lot to consider to make that choice. Anybody would have a lot to consider to make that choice of whether to stay flat, whether to continue on with reconstruction surgery. What tools and resources did you draw on? I know you had some kind of practice of your own, and some of these other modalities that, leading up to this point, meditation maybe, or
The mindfulness and meditation, was a huge piece for me. Being able to really ground myself and see things clearly versus, with all those outside labels and judgments and perceptions that are often inaccurate. And that tool was foundational for me to get through that whole journey. But just also, like, all the other tools I've come to over the years, that, again, that nutrition piece, I sought out a lot of other holistic practitioners to really help me on that and guide me in areas that they knew that I wasn't as well versed in. And it really does take a team to do, to come through something like that, I feel, at least.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's my approach. Definitely. It's the holistic piece. You can go through the gut to get to the nervous system. That's kind of stabilizing the inside. which reduces the inflammation in the body and helps you to be able to calm your life. And it's important, not just the food, of course, the food, and then, everything in your life, all of the different stressors can be agitating to the body and traumatizing. So how does the Jungian life coaching fit in? Like after that whole journey, how'd you make the transition into that? And, was it something that you were looking for, or is it something that fell into your lap?
Well, it was something that kind of found me in a sense, I guess, because like many others, when COVID hit, my therapy practice slowed down quite a bit. And I had a lot of free time for a few weeks until it started to pick up. And I don't, sit still well. So, and I'm always loving to learn. And I was looking for something that, I could offer online, since in person wasn't ideal at that moment. And I really started looking more at like a women's health coaching program and going down that path. And as I was searching, I found Creative Mind, which is the Jungian Life Coaching program I did. And it just, once I found it and blending that psychology and the Eastern philosophy and the neuroscience, I'm like, oh, this is it. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. And I just dove head in, I never looked back.
That's great. I love that. Yeah. Praying for solutions and then being open to what that is when it comes through. Can you describe what a Jungian life coaching, what it looks like?
Sure. So the process, we can pull a lot of different tools into a coaching session. That might be working with active imagination or dreams, really going into dream work and dream interpretation, visualizations, meditation. And then the shadow work is an important piece of it. We go through, well, you can go through around midlife, like what's called an individuation process, which is where you're really starting to realize you're not your ego, starting to individuate from that, starting to really look at, well, what is my purpose? Why am I here? And really being able to integrate all aspects of yourself to find that true self. And so to explain that a little bit, I should explain the shadow and persona a little bit, which is a big part of that Jungian piece, and how we put that into a coaching model. So we all have our persona or our personality we put out to the world, right? And that has actually been created when we were very young. And it's created appropriately and necessarily out of survival. So when we're young, we bring forth certain qualities or certain personality traits that are accepted or help us survive in our family, our culture, our school. And at the same time, we're pushing away other qualities that really don't serve us well, that maybe don't help us to fit into our culture, our tribe. And those qualities are pushed away into our unconscious. And those are what are called our shadow qualities. And so while the persona is being created, so is the shadow. And with that, like I said, it's appropriate that we do that, to create that healthy ego is a good goal when we're young. But now we're living out of these qualities that we think we need to be and these qualities that we think we can't be. And that really limits us in how we can show up in the world. We really don't have options in how we can be present and how we can move out into the world and really interact. And so once you can integrate all those aspects, then you live out of more possibility and you can really live out of more creativity so that you can create the life you love.
Oh, beautiful. Wow. I mean, I really love that. It's important work, Yeah.
And I think it's important because we all kind of go through that, midlife of questioning and like, who am I? What's going on? Why am I here? What's my purpose? And you can actually just continue to live out of that persona. You know, it's just going to be a more limited life. When you realize you're not that persona, you're not that ego, and you can integrate all those aspects of yourself, then you're really living out of more free will versus being compelled to act out of those traits that were encouraged or those traits you had to push away.
Yeah, like reweaving the lineage.
Right, right. That's a great way to put it.
Yeah. What is your, and this, it might be all over the place, but what does your client base look like? What does a client look like? Is there an age group or a gender, or where are you focused right now, and who is usually attracted to you or finds you?
Yeah. Well, for many years, my passion has been really empowering women and educating women, as a women's health physical therapist, even in mindfulness. And now in the Jungian coaching, that's still a passion of mine because I really feel like it's a wonderful way for me to express my purpose through that coaching because I feel, in healing women is how we're going to really heal the world. So that's
Okay.
where I'm drawn to, and that's where I feel like it's naturally those are the clients that are drawn to me. It's typically women in their 40s or 50s that are professional. Maybe they're empty nesters now. Maybe they're just questioning their careers or wanting a change and like feeling like they really want to go deeper. Or maybe it's the relationship they're in that doesn't feel like they're truly connected or they want to go deeper there. That's tends to be the kind of client that finds me.
Wow, great. Well, and how can they find you? How can they learn more?
So my website is wildnewway.com. That would be the best way to find me. The email is just cindy@wildnewway.com. But on Facebook and Instagram, it's my Facebook page is Wild New Way. And on Instagram, it's wild_new_way.
Perfect. That should be easy enough. Well, it has been such a pleasure, and just really appreciate you taking the time today. I think this holistic approach is what brought us together, and it's really helped us both in our lives, and a lot of people as well. And so I think it's worth this exploration, and I just appreciate you showing up and doing this work for yourself so that you can hold space in the container for others to do the same. So again, thank you so much for being here, and I really appreciate you.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me. This has been a pleasure. Thank you for what you do also.
You bet.
All right.
Love it. Take
All
care,
right.
everyone.
Thanks. Bye.